computer. Cool. Take it away, Chase. I'm gonna mute out here.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, my name's Chase Duncan. I've been in general aviation maintenance since 2018. My dad and I started with a 1961 182D with 0 flight hours between the two of us, and said we figured it out. Um, I essentially having wound up having to rebuild that airplane through a disastrous owner-assisted annual that I started under Mr. Paul New at Tennessee Aircraft Service. Mr. Paul liked the way I worked, so he hired me to work there, and I worked there for about a year before I left for basic training, and that's where I learned the Cessna retract world. I've spent 5 years as an F-16 crew chief. I got my 7 level, which is the Air Force version of an IA. I've got another 2 years of F-35As, and I've become a 7 level in it as well. Back in general aviation, I've gotten my A&P. I'll be soon to get my IA, and my dad and I now have a 1984 210 that you can see behind me. Um, so I've been in the Cessna retract world for a while. I own one, and I work on a couple of 182s and, or excuse me, 210s and R182s on the side as well. One in particular that made a lot of the pictures in this is a 78 uh, R182 that I've had to rebuild twice, once after a sight unseen purchase and once after an accident. I've been through every nut and bolt in that airplane. Um, so today's presentation is going to be about the induction system, the main components. What are the main components of the air intake? What are the why are car boxes considered safety of flight items, and how to tell if a car box is airworthy? And then we're going to go through a bunch of pictures, and I've got two videos of the air box off of that particular 78. So here's the intake system. It actually starts just outside. This figure's from the Illustrated Parts catalog, and it actually starts just outside of this figure with your cowling. Your cowling is your left side. Cheek cowling is the first part of the intake system with the NACA scoop. Then you've got the air filter, the carb air butterfly box, the duct between the butterfly box and the carburetor adapter. Um, the Come on, advance the slide. There
Oops.
we go. So, like I said, the intake system starts with your left side cheek cowling. Um, on most air, on two of the R182s that I've seen recently, and on a lot of airplanes, number 34 and 35 seals are missing. Cessna wants $15 per foot, but you have to buy an 8 foot sticks. If you head on down to the 000 O'Reilly's airplane parts, it's $15 for the full 8 feet of this right here. It's in the notes of the presentation. It's a uh, Bernard weather stripping is 01058, and Scott said he's going to post the slides later, so you'll be able to see it. But it works really well. The NACA scoop is extremely efficient at creating ram pressure without a lot of induced drag. But if the seals are missing, you're not getting this ram air into your carburetor. You're getting the ram air into your cowling, and it can actually cause a slight bit of cooling issues because you're pressurizing the backside of the engine. So it's fighting the air coming into the nose bowls. So you want to make sure these seals are number one in good shape, but number two actually touching the air filter. If you get this box sealed up real well between the cowling and the air filter, you'll actually get about a quarter to a half an inch of manifold pressure from the ram.
Hey,
Um,
hey, Chase, I have a question. How often do you see that seal either missing or deteriorated or whatever, not working right?
um, it's hit or miss. It all depends on if the last mechanic paid attention to it or not. But being on the part that you remove when you first start an annual, a lot of people don't even pay attention to it. But I can tell you that the this stuff from O'Reilly's that I used, Cessna didn't have any when I rebuilt the 78 that I was speaking of. We put this stuff on there, and that owner's put 450 hours on that airplane since we rebuilt it, and n none of the four pieces have come off yet.
Yeah.
If you clean up the cowling real good, it sticks well.
I've never looked at mine. That's going to be the first thing I look at when I go out there.
Yeah, me neither, Scott. I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
that's crazy.
gosh, I just put it face down on some,
Yeah.
soft material on the
I mean,
ground and then don't look at
half an inch of manifold pressure. That's a lot, man. That's
it.
significant.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to sell you an air filter with this. I'm just trying to make sure everybody's informed of all their choices. So you've got four options for air filters in the certified world. The Donaldson, which was factory OEM, the Tempest, which is almost the same filter, but newer. The Donaldson was made in the 60s. Tempest just came out with their filter in I think 2021 or 2022. The Challenger, which is a K&N based filter, and then the bracket that everybody knows. The Tempest is $254. You clean it every 100 hours or 12 months, and you have to replace it after five cleanings or 500 hours. The Donaldson is $550. Clean it every 100 hours, and you have to replace it every 3 years, five cleanings or 500 hours. So it's got an extra rule in there. The bracket's 105, and you change the $27 element every 100 hours or 12 months. And then the Challenger is 140, and you have to clean it every 100 hours, 12 months, and then replace it every 25 cleanings. I'm not the biggest fan of the Challengers just because we ran one on our straight leg 182 and it got washed with water through from flying in rain or IMC. It'll wash the oil out of the cotton. And as soon as the oil comes out of the cotton, it's no longer filtering dirt because the filter relies on the oil to catch the dirt. As you can see on this chart from Donaldson's website, and it's like a game of golf. You want a low score. The lower the delta P means the more atmospheric pressure is actually going to get into your manifold. And a 540 spinning 2400 RPM is pulling 300 CFM. So right at the edge of this chart. The dotted line in the middle is for a 172, but a R182 is going to be right at the end of the lines. So you can see how much more efficient a Donaldson is. The Tempest is this almost the same exact filter, but half the price. So if you want the best performance,
Really.
The Tempest is your best option. The cheapest is the bracket, and the Challenger is somewhere in between. But I'm just not a big fan of the Challengers. If someone with an R182 has experience with the Challengers, it would be the cheapest to own over a period of time that gives you good performance because it's good for so many cleanings. But I don't know if it would get washed with IMC like a straight leg 182. The thing working for the Challenger in the R182 is that it's inside the cowling, inside that NACA scoop. The rain and moisture may not want to make that turn. But when it's out front on the chin with a straight leg 182, it gets beat to death. Um,
Chase, I've noticed on my bracket that after 100, 130 hours, the element still looks nearly new, and that's all. It's still very oily, but obviously there's a price. It's not as efficient.
right. Your efficiency curve drops off as the filters get dirty. The Donaldson and the Tempest they look like paper filters, but they're not paper filters. They're resin filters. They're good for water. They're good for IMC. You can, if they're just dusty, you can blow them out with compressed air. And if they're dirty, you can wash them with soap and water. And like both of them are good for five cleanings. And they're designed to go for 500 hours. Um, and they have such a large filter area that they flow the best. Um,
Interesting.
Skipped it twice. So right after the filter comes the actual Carb Air box itself. You can see in Scott's photo here inside the red box, there's your carburetor air box. The next photo over, you can see the orange scat hose coming in is the carburetor heat hose from your exhaust muff. Inside the box, you've got a butterfly valve, which is the top right photo. That's Textron's photo from their website. And then on the outside of the shaft, you have the control arm, and on each side of the shaft you have the bearings. The butterfly assembly, to buy it as an assembly, is only available through Textron. No one else supports it. They don't have a lead time, and the last time it was priced, it was $1,200, and that was 3 years ago. So it's probably going to be in the neighborhood of 16 to $1,800 if you actually pressed them and wanted them to make you one.
Yeah.
I
I
didn't
called,
think that was
Uh,
that much
excuse
of
me,
it.
Chase, I called about it too, and they said they wouldn't give a price until you place the order. But you couldn't
yes,
know that before you placed. You had to place the order before you got the price.
yeah. So it's an open checkbook order.
Yeah, exactly.
I know Scott's currently working on an owner-produced part for his, and we're going to try and talk to McFarland. They support a ton of Cessna heatbox products, but for the R182, the only thing they do is the bearings and the control arm. But from what their other products are, the flapper valve, the butterfly valve would fall right into place for their lineup of products. So we're going to try and talk to them and see if they would be willing to PMA it.
Do
It's
do you know if there's a company down in Arizona that a lot of people use to repair carb air boxes and butterflies and things? Do you know if anyone's looked in to see if they could have a solution for that? I forget the
I
name of the company. I can find out, but
I don't know of anyone in Arizona that does it. The only company that advertises that they service R182 boxes, and I've actually got it later down in my slides, is Acorn Welding.
right.
But
Yeah.
they won't get they're in they just got bought by Hartzell too, so we don't know what that's going to do.
that's bad
Um,
news.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's yeah. I don't know. I
um,
go both ways. I'll
but
find it's like it's some company called like Airbox Repair or something like that that a lot of people that I know of, especially in the Cardinal fleets, because they got strange air boxes like we do a little bit, that you can send it to them and they'll repair it.
the
So that's
the
I'll find out. I'll find out.
okay, the box on the R182 is now I'm talking about the main Carb Air box that we're looking at right here. It's pretty well
Right.
bulletproof as from the box's standpoint. It's the shafts and the bearings that get ate up that no one's looking at. Um, the box itself, I haven't seen any cracked, but just the fact that if the shaft is bad, is $1,200 from Textron, and you have to, and there it's 1,200-ish. It's an open checkbook
Yeah.
order. Um, but McFarland makes the shaft for a ton of other boxes, just not this specific one. So
Okay.
it would fall right into their product category to support us.
Right.
if anybody can see
So
this, I'm holding up the
Yeah.
shaft right now.
There it is. One expensive piece of unobtainium. Yes.
Well, I was thanks to Chase, I was fortunate. I mean, you'll hear my story soon enough, but this one happens to be in really good shape.
so after your main Carb Air box, you've got I'm gonna double click it again. So after your Carb Air box, you've got the boot coupler between the two boxes. If you're naturally aspirated, the picture in the center is the figure out of your illustrated parts catalog. That's the naturally aspirated carburetor adapter. If you're a TR guy, you've got a totally different boot plumb for the boost, and those are built a lot more robust. I'll get into it just a second. The hose between the box and the adapter is part number S2318-1. It lists for $520, which is
Jesus.
like once again really high for what it is. But this is one of those things where as much as it costs, it is better to use the right part because a piece of scat this short will actually translate more vibration to the main box and put more stress on the carb adapter box. This bellow is designed to be so short that it allows the engine to move without putting stress on the carb adapter or transmitting vibration into the main box. Um, but if even if you have the right boot, it's a good idea to inspect the inside of it with a borescope because the support rings that keep it from collapsing can rust and then poke through the inner liner, and then they can be ingested by the engine. Um, after the boot, you have the carburetor adapter for all the stock naturally aspirated guys. It is very prone to cracking, and they need to be protected. The round outlet has a really small flange that's bent on the inside, and that flange can wear to where the out or the inlet will break off. Um, and that's where the arrow on the right's pointing. The arrow on the top and the bottom are pointing to it's a 90-degree adapter, and those arrows are pointing to the inside of the 90 degree. Um, the inside of those corners can crack very easily. And so like we were talking about earlier, who supports the main box? There's no one that advertises they support this box. Um, I've talked to Acorn before. I've talked to AWI. I haven't talked to the Airbox people that the other guy was talking about. But there's no one that actively advertises that they support this box, and there's none in the used inventory. I've searched every single parts website. I've searched every parts yard. So they need to be protected. The way you
Jeez.
protect it is if you find a crack, stop, drill it immediately, seal the crack. I went through and sealed every single um, mating surface of the different pieces of aluminum with PRC and sealed over the cracks in my customer 78. He has four cracks, two in the top corner, two in the bottom corner. Stop drilled all four with really small drill bits to keep them from growing, sealed the box back up, and now it's added to our 100-hour inspection or annual inspection checklist to run the borescope down the carb air box when we have the filter off and inspect those four cracks to see if they're growing past the stop drill. The other big thing is you can see on the right side of this figure, there's two bolts that come from the back of the box into the carburetor. They thread directly into the carburetor. Make sure that they're tight and they're safety wired together. They're coarse thread bolts, so make sure you don't strip the threads out on them. There is a torque spec in the book. Um, you get them tight and then you safety wire the two together because they're drilled head bolts. That keeps them from coming undone. There's two other bolts on the left side of this figure that come through the carburetor flange, through the gasket, and into two nut plates inside the adapter box. Those are an absolute booger to get to, but you have to make sure that they're tight because if they work loose, then the box has two bolts on one side holding it tight, and these two bolts are loose. The box will start working on the carburetor, and that's where you get this cracking from. The just make sure all four bolts are tight, and the two on the back are safety wired. The two that come from the front, you can't safety wire them because there's no way to get to them. You just have to make sure they're tight. But they're
Chase,
standard bolts.
question, Chase, did Acorn or anybody ever like supply these or service these in past years?
No, I even went in the Wayback Machine, which is the website you can go to view past versions of other people's websites and to see if anybody serviced it. And I can't see that anybody has ever advertised that they overhaul these boxes. Now, granted, they're a lot simpler than your main butterfly box because there is no moving parts in it, but there is a ton of pretty complex
Yep. Geometry.
pretty complex
Yep.
bends because nothing's straight, everything's bent, and you'd have to have the round inlet formed because it's a pretty big diameter. It's not a standard diameter. And then the last part is the gasket. It's list for $70 from Textron, but it's larger than a standard carburetor gasket. For the natural aspirated gas, it's not as important. You still need a gasket there, but it's not as important. But it's really important for the TR guys because if you use the wrong style gasket, when you get to high altitude and you have a large difference between in the intake manifold and outside the intake manifold, a standard cork gasket can be pushed out. Um,
Seems like torque. That's where torques would matter too on those bolts, right? That if something's loose, that's a problem there.
Right, right. So the 78 R model that, or excuse me, the 78 R182 that I've rebuilt twice. That engine before we tore it down for the prop strike during the second rebuild had swallowed the carb gasket, this gasket that we're talking about right here. It has swallowed two pieces of the ring inside the coupler that we're talking about. It has swallowed multiple pieces of the butterfly valve seal and multiple needles out of the needle bearing. The bearings on the pivot shaft from the factory were needle bearings. and they wear out, and you can actually drop the needles into the motor. So
Jeez.
that engine, and but we didn't tear it down as soon as we found that because the engine was running fine. We bore scoped it. We couldn't find anything wrong with it. When we did the prop strike and tore it down, and um, finally sent the engine off to the engine shop, and they tore it down. When they pulled one cylinder out and knocked the valves out of it to mic everything, they actually found where it looked like one of the needle bearings had been pinched between an intake and valve and seat. Just it happened to keep sealing, but you could see where it had actually the valve had closed on the needle bearing.
It's crazy.
Uh,
Yeah, and to me, Chase, that's why the whole airbox, induction assembly is so important because it can do serious damage, if something's not right, right? And that's why I thought this was a really important topic for us to cover for the group.
it's one of the things that just some mechanics don't look at. It all depends on what quality of maintenance you're getting. Um,
I
but
don't think
it's
yeah, a lot of people don't know to look at it. I thought mine was fine.
yeah, well, the it I don't know I don't know if I'm just look at more stuff than the average mechanic, but I've seen a lot of these that just look like they haven't been looked at in the past 20 years.
Yep.
Um, the when we get to the videos of the box that I have actually sitting beside me, it doesn't get that shape in 100-hour run or 1 12-month run. Doesn't matter how many hours a year you're putting on it. It comes from years and years and years of not looking at it.
Yeah.
But that gets us all the way to the carburetor. And we're not talking about anything past the carburetor today. So, uh, what are common carb box repairs? What does you look like? What do you look for in a replacement box? Make sure that the pivot bushings are not worn. You're looking for up and down play and fore aft. Make sure that the pivot arm's in good condition. You want to make sure that the pivot arm inner diameter isn't worn and the shaft outer diameter isn't worn because it's not a press fit. The only thing that holds the two together is a single roll pin. And if the arm's allowed to walk on that roll pin, number one, the roll pin can walk out of the arm, and number two, if you get too much slop, then you can actually the carburetor heat arm is not a high load area, but you can in the same application, same style of applications, I've seen the roll pins break. A big thing to do is make sure that the roll pin's seated all the way side to side on the control arm, and then run a piece of safety wire through it and safety wire it so it can't back
Oh,
out.
that's a great idea.
Uh, the uh, the same thing on your seats. If any of you have the infinitely adjustable two knob seats up front, take them off the rails, flip them over, and every single roll pin you see, you
Yeah.
need a piece of safety wire going through it. Um, the Make sure that the membrane is still flexible. So you'll see the box beside me, it's trashed. And that was the one that was on my customer's airplane when he bought it. So he wound up getting a replacement box. And the replacement box, somebody had gone through and they put baffle seal material as the seal on the butterfly valve. And it's so thick and it's so stiff that when you pushed it all the way closed or all the way open, the seal would touch the box, compress as you had your finger on the carb heat control, but as soon as you took your finger off, it would spring back and open because the seal material was so stiff. So you want to make sure that the seal material is still flexible. Make sure that it seals well against the box. Make sure that the butterfly plates are not corroded. As Scott will talk about here in a little bit, the old design and the old media that they used between the two butterfly plates was a corrosion source. And
Congratulations, prize winners,
make
John.
sure that it's not missing any rivets. You'll be surprised how many boxes are missing rivets, or if somebody's replaced them, like if they've replaced the bearings in the past, they'll put pop rivets or cherry rivets in it, and that's a big no-no in air boxes because the center pin shaft with vibration can get vibrated out and swallowed by the engine. So these are pictures of what we are talking about. You want to grab the arm, make sure that you don't have in and out play, up and down play, side to side play in the bearing. Look for corrosion in the plates. Look for the correct hardware holding the butterfly to the shaft. Um, And Scott, I'm actually I see you got screws right there.
Yep.
If you look at the new one that Cessna sells, it's rivets.
Yeah.
Um,
Can you advance the slide? I don't see that on the one you're
oh, I'm
pulling.
sorry.
That's okay.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm looking at the slide deck on my
Yeah, I
computer.
know.
I,
It's
I hit
easy.
the wrong button,
It's okay.
and I there we go. So you're looking for on the picture on the left. You're going to grab the control arm and look for up and down play, side to side play in the bearing, but also look for axial or side to side play in the shaft. If you've got too much side to side play in the shaft, that means that your seals are worn on the inside of the box and the flapper valve is actually allowed to move. Looking for corrosion in the plates, looking for the correct hardware, and making sure it doesn't have any missing rivets or anything. And then I'll let Scott talk about his story. The called me
Yes.
up out of the blue a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Chase basically saved my butt because actually it started out with my brother's IA friend who's been a friend for a long time, and they had my brother's a Blanca Viking guy, and they had some years ago a Viking went down due to an airbox failure, and actually it was Dave Pasquale who did something with for us one of the horoscoping talk it's on the club YouTube channel, and he looked at the picture I sent him of my existing airbox, and he said, "Man, that repair is wrong. This isn't right. You got to do something about that." And that's what started this whole thing. So um, when Chase kind of connected me with BAS Parts, who has to this day, well, I guess we'll talk about it sooner, that they have four other airboxes in stock that are from airplanes they're parting out that are in good shape. I bought one a couple of weeks ago that the IA sales guy said, "Hey, this thing is in great shape. You can go ahead and install it in your airplane right now. It's perfectly serviceable." And I got it and started looking at it and talking to Chase, and I'm like, "Man, this thing, I don't know, this butterfly's got a bunch of surface corrosion on it." So I took it out of the box and because I was suspicious about, if there was fraying of the membrane and the rubber membrane, and it was obviously wasn't in perfect shape. And um, yeah, and this, can you advance the slide, Chase, the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and then I drilled apart the rivets to look at it, and oh my God, the plate, like there was water trapped. The nature of the design of the butterfly is that it traps water between the plates and the membrane. I mean, all you got to do is look at the surface, and you can tell that that's been constantly damp. That's what aluminum does when it's constantly damp, right? So it's a problem. And if this is the way a good one looks, imagine how many are in the field right now that don't look good. I mean, I think this is a pervasive problem for the type. You agree, Chase?
I 100% agree. And when I show you the videos of the box that came off my customer 78, some of y'all's jaws are going to hit the floor. The airplane that we're talking about, it has 6,000 hours. It had just come out of annual before he flew it across the country. He bought it in California, flew it home to Georgia, here where I'm at, and wanted me to take a look at it. And my jaw hit the floor. I grabbed it. We'll talk about it later, but
Okay.
it's in rough shape. So like Scott was talking about, the factory membrane is a old natural rubber coated asbestos and is very hydroscopic, or yeah, hydroscopic, and gets full of water and just holds that water not only on these aluminum plates, but your cross shaft is a steel cross shaft. So Scott got lucky here that his isn't corroded, but I've seen the cross shafts corroded as well.
Yeah, for sure. I could see that would be a thing. But to me, this is why if we can't get a new part now that's any good, that this looks to me like a part that's not that difficult to make. I've talked to a couple of buddies about it, or machinists, and my plan is in the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna make my own part. And I said Mike Patterson, I make him one as well, but I'm gonna figure out how to make these things super easy and cheap, and because I think there's a huge need for them, and we got anything we make is going to be a whole lot better than what's in the field right now. So, in my opinion.
Right. So why are carb air boxes considered safety of flight items? Well, you can have either a partial or a full loss of power by airbox failure by either obstructing, or reducing the airflow to the carburetor. Even if your box doesn't outright fail, if it's not sealing in the all the way off position, you're still getting partial carb heat. And that's if any of y'all ever put carb heat on takeoff, you'll see how big a reduction it is in power. The engine doesn't like to breathe that hot air. Um, the Cessna airbox failures are not totally infrequent. You can do some Googling and you will find accidents that have been caused by this.
Oh yeah.
And as the butterfly fails completely, like so in Scott's, if he had just taken that box from BAS and installed it, when those rivets are corroded through, if one of those aluminum plates on the backside had departed the cross shaft, it can 100% block off the intake to the engine. And at that point, you have no secondary intake because the carb heat's on the other side of that blockage. So you go from wide open power, whatever you had, to however infinitesimally small amount of air can seep around the sides.
You're basically a glider at that point.
Right. And if you don't pull the throttle to idle and you don't lean it out, it's going to shut down anyway because it's going to be too rich. It's
Yeah.
like losing a turbo in a turbocharged airplane. Um, So, I mean, these are big things. And not only can you have accidents because of it, you can cause engine damage. Like I was talking about from the factory, they had needle bearings on each side of the shaft. When they wear out, the engine can ingest the needles. The engine can ingest the flap seal material. You can have a partial or full power loss. And you can also have increased cylinder wear from burning dirty air. You have to remember, carburetor heat air is unfiltered. So from the ground to 3000 AGL, that's out of the Mooney POH because Mooney has a bypass for the filter bypass. In the Mooney POH, it says they did a study that from the ground to 3000 AGL is where the most of the dust layer lives. So if you're flying in that block of air a lot or running on the ground a lot, and you don't have your carb heat sealed off completely, your engine is breathing dirty, unfiltered air.
So I was going to say, Chase,
And
anybody in the group watching this or listening to this, please go take your left side cowling piece, upper cowling access panel off and look at your airbox and have, look at it closely.
if you're doing your oil analysis correctly, if something in the intake system fails and you start breathing dirty air, you'll see an increase in silicon levels inside the oil analysis, and that immediately tells you that between you need to go look for a leak between the intake valve and the filter, and it could be anywhere. An intake leak in the induction manifold between the cylinders and the carburetor can cause it. A loose carburetor, the adapter box, the bellow between the two boxes we talked about, or the main butterfly valve box. Any of these are places for dirty air to get into the system. So how to tell if your box is in good shape? Like we said, move the control, make sure the control is good.
What's going on?
Please mute.
Move your control from stop to stop. Make sure that
Oh, good.
have somebody else
that
move the
other stuff I
control.
take made me sleepy. I took a nap. I just woke up.
Hey, Mike, can you mute, please?
Other than, are you in Great Falls?
Oh boy.
So I must have had a good drive.
There you go.
There we go.
So have somebody else get in the cabin and have them move the control while you go look. You can see a little bit through the big hole in the front of the box. But if you want to really get a look, take the air filter off and look down in the box while someone else is moving the control. When the knob's all the way in, you want the bottom of the valve to seal against the engine side of the box and the top of the valve to seal against the outside of the box. And when they pull it out, it needs to seal the other way. The bottom seals to the outside and the top seals to the inboard side, and that's how you connect carburetor heat to the motor. But if it's not sealing on both the top and the bottom in both positions, number one, you're not getting full cold when you have it selected as cold. But number two, you're not getting full hot when you pull the knob out. If your carburetor ices up to the point that you flame out, you have a precious few seconds worth of heat built up in the exhaust. And if you pull that knob out and the valve doesn't go all the way to the stop, you may not get enough air to defrost the carburetor to get the engine restarted. Now, granted, that's way down the road of having carburetor ice, and hopefully you detect it before you get there. But as soon as the engine flames out, the exhaust is going to rapidly start cooling, and you've got to have as much of that hot air as possible to get into the carburetor. Um, like we said, watch the butterfly from both ends of travel, visually inspect the butterfly, make sure it's in good condition, and move the bearings. Also, like I talked about earlier, look at all the rivets, make sure the rivets are in good shape, and make sure that a previous repair wasn't done with cherries or box standard pop rivets because the center shaft can be ingested. And a big thing here to improve the life of your airboxes is get your propellers balanced. Less vibration means less wear to every component in the airframe, but the carburetor adapter for naturally aspirated guys and the airbox that is connected to live a rough life because the airbox is stationary. The adapter is bolted to the engine. One's shaking, one's not, and they're connected by that duct. So there's a ton of vibration going on. If you can cut that out as much as possible, you're helping yourself down the road.
Yeah, prop dynamic balance is huge.
So this is Scott's old box, and it looks fine from a distance. You can see on the left picture, all the seams are pro sealed. You think it's a great looking box, but then when you look into it further on the right side, you can see that the butterfly has broken in the past, and somebody put this patch on it.
Yep.
The when you get real up close and personal with this patch, you on the far left, it's missing a rivet. On the far right attach point, it's cracked through the attach point. And we don't know what the inside of this patch looks like, so we don't know if what kind of shape the rivets are in, or if that corrosion that Scott's already pointed out is in place. So all it takes is those last few fasteners to break, and then he would have lost control of the valve. Now, granted, that's not as bad because he's not going to have a flame out, but he is going to have a reduction in power because he'd have carb heat stuck on. But you want to inspect these things because I guarantee you most of the fleet has gone years without having them looked at.
Yeah, this is not an ideal repair for sure, and it's been on the airplane for years and years and years. And while it works, I mean, oh, I'm sure we may have more pictures of it here, but yeah, it's not right. If you see something like that, if you see a patch on your butterfly, that's a flag.
Another flag, the box that he got from BAS, the butterfly is attached with screws, correct?
Yeah, yep,
And if you're the unlucky person that has a lock nut back off, which it does happen,
yep,
and then you have a lock nut go down the intake,
yep, and then
or the screw go down the intake. The they use solid rivets for this for a reason. And though if you do have to repair your box and you pull the valve out, make sure you inspect the inside of the box. So this is what the box looks like on the left. Inside the box, you can see where the membrane seal is starting to scrub on the sides. I've seen boxes with 6,000. I've got a box here with 6,000 hours on it, and the sides aren't even being touched at all because the membrane's gone on the sides of the butterfly. I've seen straight leg 182s that somebody put the wrong membrane material in, and it was too large, so it was making hard contact and actually wore through the sides of the box. So you don't know what the last person did for a repair, and you just want to make sure that everything's good. So some examples of worn boxes. The two pictures on the left are from this box that's next to me. Um, you can see the control arm. There's a little bit of, it looks like just a little bit of space between it and the shaft. And you can see that the roll pin is safety wired. Well, I safety wired it before I realized how bad the other side of the box was, and we wound up changing it. But when he first brought the airplane to me, the roll pin had backed out to where the roll pin was only engaged in the center shaft and one side of the control arm. It had fully migrated out of the other side of the control arm. So make sure your roll pin's all the way in and make sure there's a piece of safety wire on it. The picture in the center, if you look down inside that bearing, you'll see the nominal outside dimensions of that shaft. And then that little half moon is the actual outside dimensions of that shaft. You'll see in the video I'll play after the slides, it's bad. And to think that it's just one airplane, it's not. one of the boxes for sale on eBay, not by BAS, but by one of the other parts houses, is the top right-hand picture. This is an R182 airbox off of eBay, but I just zoomed in and you can
Jeez.
see where the shaft is already starting to moon out.
Hey, Chase,
Um,
the big picture in the center there, they look like pop rivets on that bushing.
oh, it is.
Yeah, that's not okay.
No, it's not. This is not okay any way you look at it. And when you see how much plays in the shaft,
Right,
it's gonna be
right. Yeah.
um the bottom right hand corner is off of McFarland's website. This is another shaft with a control arm and the roll pin, but this is what the shafts look like when they with the old school needle bearing style. The needles will actually eat into the shaft, and you'll have a ratcheting effect when you go to slide the carb heat control in and out. Um, oh, come on, there we go. All right, so you find the damaged box. Now what? Like we said, Acorn Welding can overhaul it. They still advertise it. I've talked to them. They said they 100% can do it. They have no clue how long it'll take, and they have no clue what it'll cost because the last one they did was 10 years ago. BAS has four in stock right now. Um, who knows how long that supply will last, but they're always bringing in new airplanes. BAS is the best parts house that I've ever had the pleasure of dealing with. They're great guys. If they have more than one of something, they'll go pull all, if they have seven of them, they'll go pull all seven and sit and compare them. And if you're the first person to order, they'll send you the best one.
I was
Um,
lucky. I got the best one of the five. Now there's four.
um, if you inspect your box and you've got play in the bearings, don't wait for it to get worse. If you've just got play in the bearings and that's the only thing wrong with your box, immediately go to McFarland's website, order two new bearings. They're supported, they're PMA'd, and they're better bearings. They're not metal. So the first iteration was needle bearings, and then they went to brass bushings. McFarland has it's almost like a Delrin type material on the inside that the shaft floats on. They're the best bearings out there. Um, Go order you two new bearings and save your shaft. If you wait for the bearings to get worse, it'll wind up eating the shaft. If you have time, like if you're down for an engine and you want it just 100% turnkey box, send it to Acorn. But like I said, they have no clue how long it'll be because they don't know what parts they're going to have to manufacture, and they have no clue how much it'll cost because the last one they overhauled was 10 years ago. If your shaft is bad, your only option currently is the 12 to 18, whatever we guesstimate it'll cost now from Textron, unless you own or produce it. So if your shaft is bad, the most economical option would probably be to bite the bullet and get a new box from one of the parts yards. If you're a naturally aspirated guy and your adapter box is cracked, essentially good luck. You're in the same boat that my customer is. Stop drill all the cracks you find. If it's cracked beyond repair, you're going to have to find a local fabricator that can fabricate all the pieces in the box, and that's going to be a tall task. If it's just small cracks like my customer has, stop drilling on both ends. Seal the box, seal all the seams with PRC to help hold the box together. His round inlet duct on the adapter, the flange is starting to get wore out. So I seal the entire duct with PRC, which is tank sealant for those that don't understand, um, to help support that ring to give it a little bit more bonding to the box itself. No one advertises that they service that adapter box. I've called Acorn and they said that they would do it, but they essentially they would need a deposit up front, and it's essentially a blank checkbook repair. They would have to fully disassemble the box, draw up every part, and make every part brand new. And they have no clue what it would cost, and they have absolutely no clue on the time frame because they would have to go to the FAA to get it PMA.
Right. I do have the information on the other alternative. So in Arizona, there's a gentleman. His name is Joe Rogg, ROGG. He's called the Airbox Doc. He advertises on Barnstormers,
Okay.
and he could probably repair anything. He doesn't do overhauls. He simply does repairs.
Okay.
but the way he gets around that is, as long as there's some part from the original airbox, if the airbox is really bad or what other parts, as long as there's some original part that stays there, it can be called a repair, no matter what he does to it. And so this guy has done amazing things for other airboxes that I've seen that have been in horrible shape. The compounded airboxes like this on Cessna Cardinals. So that may be another option. So if you go to Barnstormers and just search for the last name ROGG, it comes up. And I said he won't do the full overhaul. And from the gentleman that I've known, there's several that have used him owning Cardinals. His rates are real reasonable as well. So that could be another option.
Great. Well, that's really good to hear. But like I was saying, that for the naturally aspirated guys, you really need to protect your adapter box. Make sure that all 4 bolts are tight. Make sure there's a gasket that goes all the way around, because if you have a corner of a gasket here and not somewhere else, you're going to be putting asymmetric load on the box. Make sure the bellows in good shape, and get your propeller balanced to try and protect that box. But if you do find it's beyond local repair, the guy that Russell was talking about may be a great option. I just didn't know he existed. Before we jump over to questions, Scott, I'm going to share my screen real quick and show these 2 videos.
Cool. I was going to say, while you're doing that, if we had the resources in the club, which we really don't, I would love to buy all 4 of these boxes and go through them and, rebuild them and make them available for everybody. We don't have a budget for that, but that's what type clubs ought to be doing, it seems to me.
So I'm sharing my screen now. I don't know if y'all can see this.
I don't see it.
I can.
I do see it.
Oh, what am I?
I think you have to go to the people viewer.
It showed up in the presentation screen for me.
Really? No, I don't see it.
Chase, I think I can.
Scott, if you need to, I can just send you the files later.
No, that's fine. I don't know where I'm. Yeah, don't stop because of me. I'll keep looking.
I'm talking about for the recording. I can send you the files to put up with the slides.
Sure.
So this is what a really, really bad shaft looks like. This is the backside, and it's hard to see because it's in between the box and the firewall. You're going to have to take a mirror or a borescope to look around it, and it's just something a lot of people don't pay attention to. But of course, it's not going to play. So I'm going to have to drag slow motion style. Play.
Wish I could see it.
All right, I can fix this.
Oh, I got it. Shall I stop the recording now?
You can, or we can go to questions and I can pull this up later if you want to keep the recording going.
No, that's
Does
fine.
anybody have any questions?
This is Matt. Chase, this is a great presentation. I appreciate it. I don't have any questions, but it just kind of, it really shows the wealth of your knowledge in general, but also in this specific area. So, I mean, we really appreciate you doing this.
Well, it's my first one, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're not going to let him go, Scott. Matt. He's going to do more for us, man.
yeah, man. Gosh, maybe the group will have, sounds like, well, you might be gone for a little while, and we appreciate you for doing that too, Chase.
Yeah, much appreciated.
I'm going to open my pictures, I think. And
definitely appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, can y'all see this? It should play now.